You're listening to Real Talk Texas with local expert Steve Hakes. Now, here's Steve.
Welcome back. If you're just joining us, we're having a conversation with Ron Quintero, the CEO and founder of Real Estate Radio Network from sunny San Diego, California. Hey, Ron, at the end of our last segment, we started talking about the Real Estate Radio Network, and I'd really like our listeners to hear what to expect from Real Talk Texas as an affiliate of the Real Estate Radio Network, and a little bit more about the format and the type of people that we're going to bring on and expose to our listeners.
Well, Steve, thanks a lot for teaming me up there. And real quick, if you're listening to the show, we're looking for financial advisors. We're looking for estate planning attorneys. We're looking for people that can give advice in the way of credit regarding current real estate trends to be guests for our show. And I know that you've already got a few people that you're talking to and that you already have scheduled for some of your immediate upcoming shows. But we're always looking for expert contributors to be able to come on air and share timely information that's going to improve our listeners' lives. That's really what we're looking for. And Steve, one more time real quick, in case a person is just tuning in, what is the best way to be able to get in contact with you to either introduce themselves if they are one of those professionals, or to introduce someone they know that would be a good expert contributor to come on air and to be able to share some timely advice to be able to improve their lives?
Well, we have two ways, really, Ron. One way is realtalktexas.com. Just simply go on there and click on Contact Us, and you can send me a quick note, and then we'll follow up with you. The other way is to call me directly at 214-643-6021. That's 214-643-6021 when we're not on the air, and I'd be happy to talk to you then.
And to piggyback on that thought process, we're looking for the professionals that can give good, sound fiscal advice in the way of estate planning attorneys to protect a person's property. We're looking for financial advisors, but we're also looking for the other types of professionals that need to help people out of a bad situation. We're looking for some bankruptcy attorneys. We're looking for some experts that know how to basically overcome debt, improve their credit. And so if you're listening right now and you are one of these professionals, or if you know one of these professionals, please be sure to reach out to Steve so Steve and you can have a cup of coffee, do a little bit of a pre-interview if you want to call it that, and to see if you would be a good fit to be able to come on his show. And possibly, if it's a great segment, to become an expert contributor ongoing that's going to come back minimum quarterly, maybe even monthly if they're that good. I mean, we have some of our radio shows around the country that, we have some, I'll give you an example, estate planning attorneys that are monthly contributors that are giving so much advice and getting so many calls from listeners or texts, or they're sending them, an email or something like that. However they're reaching out to them is not relevant. They're reaching out. And, Steve, I want to be able to share with you a quick story. We had a show about a month or two ago, and it was a person that was not a professional that came on air. It was a person that was a listener on the show that reached out, and they shared the story about the advice that they had received from the radio show host that was a mortgage lender just like you, and how during the process of getting the home loan, they were able to be introduced to an estate planning attorney that set up their living trust. They were introduced to a life insurance specialist. Now, life insurance, I'm not an expert, but I'm a big fan of term life insurance. And, our radio show hosts introduced them to these borrowers, these homeowners, to a life insurance specialist that did get them involved with a term life insurance policy that was equal to their loan amount, that God forbid in the event of one of their deaths, they were covered, the property's free and clear, and they would be able to, not have the strain of maintaining a household and at the same time be confronted with the expenses associated with a person passing. And sure as heck, this person that came on air, right after they got their property purchased, then they refinanced, and before they even made their first payment on their refinance, the wife was actually killed in an automobile accident.
Wow.
And if they had just got online and clicked on one of those banner ads and worked with the call center with a professional that really doesn't care about them, they're just churning loans without the advice, without the overall looking at their budget and their finances and their insurance needs and making sure they have a living trust and all the things that, listen, gang, if you're listening to the show right now, if you currently own real estate and you don't have a living trust, you need to give Steve a phone call and be introduced to an estate planning attorney that can help you cover your assets. That's one of the segments that we have on our radio show, on our structure, is a segment called Cover Your Assets. And the reason we do that is because we want people to make informed decisions. And more importantly, they don't realize that if, in fact, something happens to them, their property goes to this evil little place called probate, where all these strange attorneys get to start providing advice and billing the estate, meaning chipping at or eating your equity. And it's sad because you could avoid a lot of taxes, and at the same time you can minimize your responsibility of how much burden you're passing on to your family or you're leaving with your estate. And a lot of estates are forced to sell the property that the person that passed on wanted to keep it within the family. But that doesn't always happen because of the tax burden and responsibility, or because they didn't. I mean, it is very inexpensive to put the paperwork and the documentation in place to keep the lawyers and the judges out of your family's business.
And it's amazing. A lot of people think that only the rich people do that stuff, and they don't really understand it. And it's not, you don't have to be rich. You just have to be smart or get good advice. That's really what we're looking to make sure that everybody realizes, is that, it's not something for the rich and famous and things like that. It really is truly something to protect the average American as a homeowner.
Steve, I heard that less than 6% of people that own real estate have their assets protected by a living trust or some type of probate avoidance, and that is a sad number, and it's a number that it really needs to be improved upon. So if you're listening to the show right now, Steve, how do they get in contact with you?
Well, it's very easy. You go to realtalktexas.com. That's realtalktexas.com. That's an easy way. The other way is when I'm not on the air, you can feel free to reach out to me at my office at 214-643-6021. That's 214-643-6021. And we'll hook you up with an expert in whatever field you're looking for advice. And that's really our goal here, is to make sure that we give you real talk from real experts in the Metroplex that can really help you better your financial situation and protect yourself and your family. And we talked about bringing on people throughout the shows each week, and one of the things that's my commitment to the show is that we call the show Real Talk Texas, and the tagline is Real Talk from Real Experts. And it's my commitment really to make sure that these people that we do bring on the show, and if you're listening out there and you are a real expert, we want you. We want the people that are top in their business, that give the greatest counsel and make it available to everyone in the Metroplex here. And that's my commitment. That's why we have the cup of coffee. I want to make sure that we have our questions answered, and we'll do a little background check on these people to make sure. I've been in business for over 30 years, Ron, and I've seen the good and the bad and the ugly, and sometimes the bad people can fool you a little bit, and so you do have to check people out, unfortunately, and they may not be what they seem. And so my biggest thing is I will not put somebody in front of a microphone on our show that is a bad person, so that our listeners can really look at the people that come and be part of the Real Talk Texas show as part of the real experts, that they truly are those experts, and people can really count on their advice.
By doing basically a business background check with the BBB, check with their licensing agency, If they're an attorney, check with their state bar to make sure that they don't have a bunch of complaints filed against them. By the way, all the stuff that most consumers should be doing anytime they engage with any professional. But the truth is, most people don't take the time to do that, and they do get hoodwinked by some slick people from time to time, and they do get roped into a relationship that could work against them. And you're right, Steve. You and I have both been in business for just over 30 years. We have seen. I love your Clint Eastwood reference there: the good, the bad, and the ugly. That was so Texas, like you just do.
Well, he was on TV recently on the convention, so kind of brought it to mind.
Yeah, he was. Pretty controversial, too.
Yeah, I know.
That's going to be fun. That's going to be fun. It's going to be fun to watch the selection and watch how this whole thing, plays out. But the good news is, regardless of who goes into office, the Mortgage Interest Deductibility Act is still going to be there, meaning the U.S. government is going to help you buy that next piece of real estate by basically passing on to you mortgage interest deductibility. And that's the other thing that a lot of people don't know, the numbers behind the numbers when making a decision to either rent or own, is they don't really drill down on what will my tax returns look and feel like next year if I'm renting this year, and if I bought next year or bought this year, how much am I going to get back in the way of my payments?
Hey, Ron, we're coming to the end of our show today, and really appreciate you coming on the air with us to share your knowledge and experiences and things like that. We're going to drill down next week a lot more on the interest deductibility and what the government benefits there are and how that really relates to you. And I'll tell you the story about my son, Scott, who's 27 years old, who came in wanted to meet with me on a Sunday, and we got out the whiteboard and we started talking about home ownership and what that really meant. And one of the things that really baffled him was the whole concept of what that mortgage interest deduction does to his total taxable income and what the benefits of home ownership are. So we'll talk about that next week. So tune in next week on Real Talk Texas at noon on 570 KLIF.